Hello, everybody. Alrighty then.
Hello,
Welcome,
hello, hello. Oh, sorry.
welcome to, welcome to the Mikestand, everybody. I hope everybody's had a good weekend. Sorry for the short show last night. I just was too tired to try to stretch it out. A little too flustered, a little too tired to just try to stretch it out. But as always, guys, if you haven't already, you guys can like and share this stream. See if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer questions to the best of our ability. So, and Elk's already here. Hey, Zena and Zena had an easy day at work. Well, that's always good.
Awesome.
With that, so I guess, well, with some people here already, then we'll just go ahead and talk about what's on tap for tonight. So, I do have 3 articles from Bleeding Fool. Bleeding Fool. We're gonna all 3 of them are comics related. We have some news coming out of WWE and AEW as well, and the wrestling wrap up a little later, and of course this day in each history. But before we get started, of course, Rick, you want? I think you know the shtick, right? You want to do
Yeah.
an intro?
Okay. Is that gonna go in? Yeah. Okay. Well, I put the link to my YouTube channel in the the chat. So if anyone who wants to click that, go over and subscribe to me who's not already subscribed. I do chill stream on Tuesday nights, and hopefully starting later this week or next week, I will get back into producing some other content for my channel. And my channel is about me, about the comics I create, which is some Christian superhero comic books. So yeah, go check it out if you haven't already.
All right, just doing some last minute sharing here before we get started here. See if we can try to
And
draw in some people.
Outcast, does Avi write for Bleeding Fool or Bounding into Comics?
Oh, Avi Green. He writes
Yeah.
for Bleeding. He writes for Bleeding Fool. He writes for Bleeding Fool. So,
Yeah, and I did the like and share before we got started, even before I came into the back room.
all right.
So,
So I did some last minute sharing just now too. So, anyways, why don't we go ahead then? And with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. See what we got here on these on the articles here. Bleeding Fool. Of course, the first article we're gonna go over here. All 3 of these articles, of course, were posted on Friday on the 3rd, so they may be a little dated, but still. Um, Indie creator pays homage to Bronze Age with self-published Life the Necropolis. Article by Avi Green, published this past Friday, uh, May 3rd. So there it is, the cover there, Life the Necropolis. Castanet has an article about an artist and specialty store manager from Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada.
I was
Um,
just near there a few weeks ago. Well, sort of near. A lot nearer than I am now, of course.
yeah,
But still, I was, I think, a couple hundred kilometers away. 2 or 3 hour drive or more.
yeah. Who
I would have
published?
liked to visit.
Yeah,
Maybe
who
one day.
published? Yeah, who published a comic that's meant to be a fantasy in the style of Bronze Age. But the downside is that he's also playing on pamphlet format or relying on pamphlet format. Right, so
Okay.
writing, drawing, inking, and coloring are all part of the process for a local Kamloops artist who has now released the 2nd issue of his self-published comic book series. Nick Kyle or Nick Klee of manager High Octane Comics says first issue of Life in Necropolis last year, he thought he would have to do everything in his power to sell the hundreds of copies he printed over a year's time. I in quote here, I sold out within under 2 months, unquote. Clee said. Just goes to show you what the market is for right now, as a lot of these independent creators can.
Well, the other thing is he had a comic shop, so he had a whole bunch of customers right there. It's his book. Like if he doesn't put his book on his shelf, he's crazy. you know, and of course, a lot of his customers know him, probably interact with him, and he's able probably to get sales just because of that being in his own comic shop, or at least without going into more of the article, maybe that is a rush judgment on my part of thinking, you know, but we'll find out hopefully, of course.
Quote, it just went over really well here at the store. It went well online. I was just starting. I didn't think it was going to do that. And to be honest, I didn't print enough. I should have printed more, unquote.
And just that, it's saying it did really well in the store, and probably with doing well in the store, and him being able to, you know, the customers that get it at the store, they would promote it probably online as well. Hey, I got this new book. Not all of them, but some of them, of course.
Yeah. And you see
Which
some of the
helps.
art. I guess you see some of the artwork here, obviously.
Yeah.
All right. Clee said he has now followed up his success with a second issue titled Life in the Necropolis, The Red Wizard. The series follows a traveling space mercenary named Life. Very interesting. Okay. Clee said the first issue isn't required reading for the second, with each issue serving as a self-contained story with different characters, places, and conflicts. With the exception of the main character, of course, I'm sure.
Or I would hope, yeah.
Quote, it's kind of like an Indiana Jones movie. It's his next adventure, unquote, he said.
Yeah.
So I wonder,
Actually,
are these books or are these more like graphic novels, I wonder?
well, it hasn't said the page count, so that I can't be sure of. Depends on
Are
how
these,
many pages,
Because at least
and
from a title perspective, it seems like it almost would seem like maybe they might be graphic novels, but again, I could be
yeah,
wrong.
they could be. You could have a self-sustained story within, 20, 20 to 26 pages, we'll say. Elk says, yeah, I've almost always bought a book if I personally know the author. So a store owner would have many similar sales. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if they
Well,
went
they have
back.
that. They have a natural customer base there, a group of people they've already developed that rapport with. So well, yeah. I mean, we know that guy. Let's give it a shot. Let's see what he does here. So
Yeah,
that's natural. Quote,
yeah,
completely different characters except for the main character. Life is still there, unquote. Clee said the series art is drawn in a retro 1970s fantasy style, and he hopes his new issue will show how he's grown as an artist and writer over the previous year. And back to Avi here speaking. Look, it's great if he's made significant sales, but even so, why must he stick with the pamphlet format and not publish it all in paperback hardcover? And if he only printed hundreds of copies as opposed to thousands and millions, doesn't that say something? it's worth considering that if Kyle would arrange with publishing houses to print the stories as a whole book with several chapters, it could possibly find more audience and sales.
Well, speaking as a creator here, I don't know how much money this guy has. It can be expensive to print a lot of copies. Even 100 books can be expensive. And if he didn't have the money to spare so much, you know, he
Mm.
didn't think he didn't know how well it was going to do. So I can't see him printing millions for sure. And I can't even see him printing thousands, maybe 1,000. And that's especially when you have no for sure that you're going to get, 1,000 sales. I can
I
see
mean, he's
him
pretty much he's a brand new comic book creator too. I mean, it's not
yeah,
like it's not like he's like somebody like Chuck Dixon or Mike Barron or EBS who has a established history of successful work. He's
yeah,
just this new guy who just happened to he's just giving it a shot, right?
yeah. He had a story. He drew it up, he colored it or whatever, all that. And he figured he'd print it up and sell it online. I'm not sure whether he'd get a crowdfunding for it or not. But he also figured, I guess, he would do, you know, uh, sell it online. So he has a comic book shop. Where else do you try and sell it? But there, that just sounds like a great idea.
Mhm.
If you have a comic book shop, put your own comic in your comic book shop. So, and as for the pamphlet, I'm not sure exactly what the pamphlet style is. I'm thinking it is probably like, thinner, you know, and
Hmm.
maybe a little shorter or about the same, maybe the same height, but a little shorter. So, yeah, I get it's not the most ideal way, and I probably wouldn't do it myself, but it's
Mhm.
again probably comes down to money, and it was probably cheaper this way for him to do it, and get it out there.
Well, let's see. Well, Elk's got a couple things to say here. Another dumb take by Avi, although I agree with half his take. So you call it dumb, yet you agree with half of it. So
Well,
that
I think
that's
I think what he's probably referring to is the pamphlet size. I do really consider that probably not the best idea. And probably it is that is probably a bit of a dumb idea doing the pamphlet size, in my own personal opinion. But the thousands or millions, definitely a very smart idea. You don't know how many you're going to print. You're not well known. He's
yeah,
smart.
thousands of millions of copies of certified DA. Well, again, as Rick just pointed out, though, unless it's a cost effective question. You know.
Well, yeah, it obviously is cost effective. Like nobody is, very few people when they're first starting out are going to print 1,000 copies of a book unless they have the money to waste.
Hmm.
Because they don't know how well it's going to sell or whatever. Like when I did my crowdfunding for my books, I printed some extra copies. I probably printed a couple hundred extra copies, and I've sold out of all of the original number ones of Canadian Shield, both
Hmm.
versions of them, the John Dillard cover and my cover. Now I haven't sold out of all of number two yet, but I bought extra for that reason. That way I would have some on hand to sell to people or whatever, and to go to conventions. Uh, I know how, I know that, even if I were to go and print up some by myself, if I would have never done the crowdfunding, I probably only would have printed up a couple hundred at best because
Hmm.
I can't afford much more.
Right.
Anyways,
Well, Elk has a few comments here. I do agree. A $25 a book graphic novel appeals to me more as a customer or a potential customer. Um, it takes the same effort to promote a $25 GN as a
cover.
24-page pamphlet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes the same effort to promote them. But if the pamphlet can be cheaper to produce and make, print, thus, I'm not sure how much this guy has been charging. It hasn't said that. So if he can, maybe he's thinking if he prints it in the pamphlet style, he can sell it for $1 or $3 or something like that, compared to if he printed in comic book style color, where he's going to have to charge 5 or 6 or more to
Hmm.
make a profit on it.
Let's see. I think Comicsgate has probably tested that idea. Um,
Yeah, well, we
as
don't know
much.
whether I was just gonna say we don't know whether this guy, this comic book owner or this comic shop owner is comic skate or not. It's just being said that he did this. It hasn't said whether he's
Yeah.
comic skate or not. And frankly, I don't care about that. It's
Mm.
nice if he is, but if he's not, if I was somewhere near, I'd probably, buy it, check it out, I can see why he did his decisions. Like I said, I don't really agree with the pamphlet style, but hey, it's up to
You
him
may
to do
not
it, and
agree
if
with
it's
it, but you
working for
understand it. You may not
yeah,
agree with it, but you understand it. Is that basically where you're going with it?
yeah.
Yeah. So as much as any theory is tested in a marketplace, and then that's true. It would be cheaper if you're self printed. All right. So, anyways, let's get back to the article here. All right. So let's see. Um,
Look, it's
yeah.
great.
Yeah. I'm just.
Oh no, we
It's
did that.
Yeah, it's worth considering that if Klee would arrange with. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we actually did that whole.
Oh no, we didn't do the bottom here about Clee public with a publishing house.
What? Oh,
Yeah,
I thought we did, but okay. Klee
no.
would arrange with the publishing houses to print the stories of the whole book with several chapters. It could possibly fund. Yeah, we did actually do
Oh
that.
yeah, we did. Okay, I didn't really remember the first part, but with that, it's easy to say, but you can't always get some known publisher to print your stuff. In fact, it's probably easier, and for him, especially owning a comic book shop, it would be easier just to, you know,
Self-publish with pamphlets, and then
or
maybe if he does maybe if he does race them now. Of course, the $1 million question is the guy even aware of like the crowdfunding
crowdfunding.
site? You know,
That's hard to say. I would assume so that he would be, but maybe I'm, too naive. Maybe I'm being a bit naive to think he would be. It's just that it's what he thought he could do at first, and maybe he did want to do crowdfunding for whatever reason, or
not everybody wants to do it for some reason. Yeah,
yeah.
everybody has their reasons for doing things. So, anyways, I do think he's got a great idea how to develop storylines with standalone approach, and even the artwork style he's employing doubtless has value. But I can't understand why almost every creator today still insists on relying on the outdated format of pamphlets when here many have a golden opportunity to set a better example by going for paperback hardcover, which betters the chances of selling in commercial bookstores and finding more audience than this graphic novel series may already have. Again, we
Okay,
don't know.
it sounds like by pamphlet style, he is possibly meaning a regular comic book style, because with paperback and hardcover is definitely a lot more expensive to sell, so I can see why he wouldn't do that. And again, depending on how many pages is, they're saying a graphic novel, I'm not sure how many pages it is. Again, it might be more cost productive to do the saddle stitch rather than the glue thing. horror thing.
Rick, maybe you can help me understand something here a little bit. So, are the pamphlets what they sometimes call floppies?
Well, I've never heard the floppies referred to as pamphlets, but that's what I'm beginning to understand from this article. That what Avi means. Like if we go back up a little and look at the picture of the comic book, just I think you went up a bit too far.
Well, I think there's.
Well, there's that one, yeah. But that right there, it looks a bit thinner than a regular comic book, but that could be just something else. It could easily be um the full size of a comic book, a floppy. So somehow I'm thinking this means floppy, and even looking at the thickness of that, um, the yellow one there, yeah, you were right at it. Look, trying to getting my best look at the sides of that. It's not looking that thick, so I don't think this is I don't think this is many more pages than 20. We'll say 30 at best. I would think this isn't more than. It's probably around somewhere between 20 and 30. Just looking
It
at
looks
it.
pretty thin there.
No.
So,
Pamphlet. Yes, pamphlet is what publishers call comics. Okay. And then it says elk, and then stapled 28 pages as a pamphlet to a publisher or a specialty printer. Okay.
Avi's dumb. Most first books self-publish, not go to establishment publishers, which is true. Yeah, pamphlet
Yes.
means traditional comic. Yeah.
So, like I haven't really ever heard of it referred to as pamphlet, but obviously that's what he's referring to is most likely original comic. And like I said, this seems like 30 pages or under. We know a typical comic book in the day with ads and all that was 32 internal pages plus the cover. So, technically, I guess that's 36 in all pages. And they were stable most of the time. I think you can get that as the rigid edge, but even in some ways, the staple, especially when you're going for a floppy, is so much better. Because you don't. I find those hard edge ones. I forget what they call them. I guess paperback in this case, we'll say. It's harder to get in to read in the middle of the book, because it's so rigid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, no. For comics, they're divisible by 4.
In a pamphlet, he's saying though,
Yeah.
but well, I mean, if you remember, Rick, because remember we've been going back to the Golden Age comics. They started out at like 64 pages, and
Yeah.
then they eventually went down to 4. Well, even though I know with you guys I haven't got there yet, but they eventually went down to 48, and then now it's like 32. So
Yeah. Well, and was that 64 pages with the ads or with the
yeah.
ads? Or,
Mm-hmm.
because I
Like
thought
I
they were a
think
little
even
bit
in
more.
some cases
I
it went
think
up as much as high. Actually, I think it went as high as 72 in some cases when you add the
yeah,
ads in and all that. So,
because because with the ads, I think it was higher. I think the story pages were 64, and then plus whatever ads.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. The story pages were 64. That much I know. So, anyways, I think this is I think the last paragraph for this particular article. So let's get
Yeah.
through that. I do think he's got a good idea on how to develop storylines with standalone approach. And I know, but
Okay. Okay. No problem.
the standalone approach and even artwork style he's employing doubtless has values. But I just can't understand why almost every creator today still insists on relying on outdated format when here many have a golden opportunity to set a better example by going for paperback hardcover, which betters chances for selling in commercial bookstores, finding more audience than this graphic novel series may already have. Clee,
And I know, we commented a lot on that paragraph. I'm just going to comment on one other thing quickly. The regular comic style is not outdated. Marvel and DC are still doing it. Lots of companies are still doing it. It's not outdated.
Clee's premise is welcome and admirable, but it's regrettable the pamphlet format remains firmly stuck upon by modern creators.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Avi speaking from a non-creator
Perspective?
point, yeah, perspective, and I don't think he knows what it's like to be,
It's a case he's one of these people who maybe doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to the more technical aspects of creating.
Yeah, or the behind the scenes publishing end. He doesn't know. He probably doesn't know the costs and all that associated with it, especially for a small printer who's having a small print because you know yeah, it's nice if you can, like go with one of these big name places like that will publish your book, either for a fee or whatever, like Antarctic Press or even Alterna that you can get with these people. But then again, if you don't know how often you're putting out a comic or how well it's going to go over, you might not want to um, do that method because it could cost you. More money than you make. And, in a lot of ways, I think this creator was smart. Yeah, sure, he didn't print up as many as he could, but you want to know something? Since he's self publishing, it means he can, as long as he puts the money back in, saves it up a little bit, it means he can do a second printing, either with the same cover or another cover.
If he thinks a first comic should print thousands to millions of comics, he's completely ignorant.
Yeah, well, in a lot of ways, I agree with
the general consensus there.
Yeah, well, it's all right to print thousands. Well, I'll say thousands, not millions, of course, because in today's market, that's rather stupid. Even with Marvel and DC, they're only printing in the thousands or tens of thousands. They're lucky to print in the hundreds of thousands for their new books. New issues every month. And that's with characters that have been going, on for 80 years or 60 years.
60 to 80 years, yeah. And Elk saying the top selling Batmans are selling 100,000 or so now. So,
yeah, exactly what I was pointing out, that, even those aren't selling in the millions, So this guy was smart, especially being a new guy. Yeah, hopefully he builds a base and, maybe he can start selling, 1,000 or 10,000 comics, and that would be great. I'd like to see that.
And maybe possibly, maybe even possibly graduate to
in some ways, I might try and find this article and find out what the creator's name is, and I might reach out to him and see whether once I get things set up again for me in a good way, I might try have him on my channel and interview him. When his third book comes out, hopefully by the time his third book comes out.
His name is Nick Clee, and he's from High Octane Comics in Kamloops, British Columbia. So
yeah, it'd be great to interview another Canadian who's doing a book. So yeah. So if you want to get on to the next.
And a friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. with all that thing.
I'll just say to Elk, yeah, that's a good idea too. If he's got digital, you can buy it. Maybe look up High Octane Comics. I believe that don't think that's his comic business, his imprint called, but it's his store. Maybe you can look for it through there, or look up Life Necromancer or whatever it was called
Life
online.
Necropolis. Life Necropolis. Life colon the necropolis.
Yeah, maybe look for that, with a Google search or whatever.
Yeah, so with that, let's get on into this next article then. World's best comics in Sacramento burglarized. Reward offered. Article by Jameson Ashley, published May 3rd, 2024, this past Friday. So that's the place, I guess, right there. World's best comics and toys. Buy and sell comics and toys. And then there's the number right there. After a break-in at a well-known comic book store in the Arden Arcade neighborhood, authorities need assistance finding a culprit. KCRA Sacramento spoke to the owner of the shop, who caught the crime on security cameras. Quote, "I think your days are numbered," unquote, owner of World's Best Comics and Toys, Dave Downey, declared. Quote, "I think we're going to get you." That's got to be kind of a daunting thing when you got a guy on camera telling you.
Yeah. Well, it's also a way to edge him on to make a mistake too.
Yeah, that's true too. The entire crime was captured on camera. After shattering the glass, the suspect entered the room and faced the camera. He fled with goods valued at roughly $3,000, but left behind broken glass.
Yeah, which would probably cost us almost as much as the stuff that he stole.
Now I don't know if this show is still on or if there's kind of a variation of it on somewhere. But this guy, obviously, I don't know if he's just auditioning for America's Dumbest Criminals or something like that.
Yeah.
You remember those shows?
Yeah, I remember that. Well,
World's Dumbest Criminals.
Well, I'm not sure where he'd fit in that, but he certainly he didn't really scope out the place or anything. It would seem first because he didn't know about the camera and he faced right the camera. I guess that makes him like one of the America's dumbest
either
criminals.
stupid or if he did know that the camera was there, he's probably just very brazen. It's like, here I am, catch me. Quote, various cards had been stolen. We were missing a few toys from over in that area. Most a lot of 80s type toys, Thundercats and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, unquote, Downey added. After publicizing the news of the break-in on Facebook, he spent the rest of the day boarding up, cleaning, and publishing pictures of the stolen goods. A $500 reward is up for grabs for information.
Yeah, which is cool, and the guy probably stole what he thought was valuable, and some things are easily priced in those places, for what they're wanting. So.
Yeah. Downey clarified though that the store had been targeted before. Quote, up until about 5-6 years ago, I'd never been broken in here at all. And then it happened once. It happened again a couple of years after that. And it happened again just now. If you come down to the store and make a purchase, any kind of purchase whatsoever, your business would be much appreciated, unquote, stated Downey. Quote, I need to get a little bit more protection. We are working on that right now, unquote.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's not bad. It's like what 3 times in about 6 years. Some places have been broken into a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Not that it's good that he's been broken into at all. And Elk's got another commentary saying, "Happy personal news! I just received my Lego Batmobile on Ethiopian Copic crucifix arrived in the mail, and
My
my
Ethiopian Coptic crucifix arrived.
okay, and then in the mail, and my Antioch St. George and the dragon icon. Oh, cool, cool.
Is it? He
He
he's
said hi.
shy or biker game as security guards. Yeah, or maybe bring in the guardian angels from New York, maybe.
Yeah. Well, the only major problem with that is apparently I would assume that this stuff is happening after hours. So unless you're wanting pay a security guard for being there all night,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really worth it with 3 break-ins. And maybe it's worth getting some upgraded security stuff, like maybe putting in the metal thing, lattice or whatever you want to call it, the crisscross stuff in front of the window. So if they break the window, they can't. It's harder to get past the window
You
area.
mean bars.
Yeah, it's sort of bars, but they're metal, but they go in like X formation, on an angle, not up and down and back and forth.
Hmm.
But
All right.
anyways,
Well, anyway, the break-in occurred on Sunday at approximately 4:30 a.m. According to the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. No arrests have been made at this time. Well, with the guy's picture, video out there, it's more likely not gonna be just a matter of time before he's got.
yeah, and with pictures of what he took, or knowing what he took easily, it's not like he's going to be fencing the stuff unless he's bought it for his own person, stole it for his own personal
Yeah,
collection.
bought it. Yeah, yeah, he stole it, Rick.
Hey,
Oh boy.
hey, again, America's Dumbest Criminals. Some people steal stuff for themselves. Some people steal stuff to sell them for money. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh. Anyway, so we got one more article here to get through, and then we'll probably get right into the wrestling wrap up here. Free Comic Book Day happens at all the best comic shops tomorrow. Article by Chris Braley, published on Friday. So Free
That this
Comic
would have
Book
been
Day
for
happens on
Saturday.
Saturday, I believe. So even though we'll still go over this, even though we know that you know,
It's already happened.
yeah. Free Comic Book Day 2024 is starting to take shape. This year's celebration of the comic book medium and industry will take place on the first Saturday of May, as is customary. Nearly 50 comics from publishers such as Marvel Comics, Titan Comics, Image Comics, Boom Studios, IDW, DC Comics, Dark Horse Comics, and many more will be available for the incredibly low price of $0.
And Elk just says it's a deterrent, and I think he's talking about the metal thing that I was talking about in the windows.
Yeah. The purpose of Free Comic Book Day is to serve as a reminder to those who don't often visit their local comic book store that they have no excuse not to. Retailer Joe Field came up with the idea in 2001 after being influenced by Baskin Robbins' Free Scoop Night marketing campaign at his neighborhood ice cream shop. Um, the next year saw the first Free Comic Book Day, which was so successful that it swiftly turned into an annual event. More than 2 million comic books from just 4 companies were given out, and each one was a reprint rather than a typical all new content seen at events nowadays. Oh yeah, I mean, get kind of older stuff, might whet the appetite for a comic. Over 2,000 stores participate in Diamond Comic Distributors' annual Free Comic Book Day, which takes place on the first Saturday of May, and is aimed at promoting comic books and comic book merchants to the general public. The early May date was selected so that the celebration could take place in conjunction with the widely observed quote "May the Fourth be with you" holiday among Star Wars enthusiasts, as
I
well
wouldn't
as
call that a holiday, but
in close proximity to the premiere of a summer superhero film.
Elk joking. I'm not sure whether he's jokingly. He says IDW should hand out free shares instead of a comic. IDW shares are going for 50 cents, less than four
Oh
comics.
yeah, I know that Yellow Flash had actually reported on that a while back, and even Tug did a while ago, where basically IDW is financially drowning. Okay, I think they actually at the end of last year lost I think the Transformers and maybe even the GI Joe IPs to
Yeah,
other
and
companies
and that
because they were trying to put too much woke bull in it.
yeah.
So,
Well, hopefully they've learned something from that, and it's hard to say. We'll find out in the future for sure.
see, the original plan was for Free Comic Book Day to fall on May 4th, 2024, in conjunction with the release of MCU's Captain America New World Order, which of course May 4th, 2024 was this past Saturday, by the way. New
Yeah,
World Order, later retitled Captain America New World Order, and delayed another year. Um, yeah, we probably, quote, dodged a speeding bullet, unquote, with delay.
yeah,
To see a list of all 48 titles being offered for free this year, click here. Of course, now it wouldn't do you much good now because obviously the time has passed. And to locate the comic shop and/or comic shops nearest you, click here. And may the free comics be with you always. Alrighty then. So there we
yeah.
go.
Yeah, and Alex got another comment. It says, "Yeah, IDW shares are 50 cents each a month ago. I was tempted to buy them." Yeah, hearing that, I am tempted to buy some now, depending on how much if there's a minimum number of shares that you have to buy. Buy a comic book's worth, so what? Uh,
I
for
mean,
eight buy eight
at
shares.
50 cents a share, I mean, think about it. At 50 cents a share, theoretically, you know, you could buy a chunk of the company if you wanted to. You know, if you really wanted to do some kind of reclamation project or something like that, buy up enough shares to where you basically could take over the company, fire all the woke idiots who basically have run the thing into the ground, and then just start producing better comics, start
Yeah,
publishing
it
better
depends on
comics.
how many shares are out there. Yeah, they're selling for 50 cents a share, but how many of them are up for sale too?
Good point. Yeah. But at 50 cents a share, if it is possible, if you really feel like doing a reclamation project, in other words, basically, if you feel like basically taking and actually a friend of mine even told me once that that's sometimes what some financiers like people like Warren Buffett. That's kind of what they do, right? Some of these successful financiers, they'll take companies that are like basically going down, and then they'll buy it out, and then just they'll fire all the problems, and hire good people to work it.
Yeah, Elk says I have to pay a $10 commission for any number of shares. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what you mean for that. And he says IDW is capitalized for a total of 6 million. 6 million shares, or you could buy the company for 6 million. Well, at 6 million shares at 50 cents each, that's $3 million bucks. So if you bought say half, that's $1.5 million, or you want to buy
half
just
plus
over
half plus one, half plus
yeah,
one, basically.
yeah.
But
What you
you
have
would have
for
to cover the losses. They can't borrow money anymore. Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. They can't because they're well into the red from what I understand. There have been people have been predict like IDW is going to probably be one of the first major comic book companies to go under. And I know Yellow Flash has been predicting a lot of the major ones like IDW, like DC, Marvel.
yeah.
It's only a matter of time before they just go, bankrupt.
Yeah,
So,
well, unfortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, Marvel and DC are right now backed up by, well, Marvel's backed up by Disney. DC is backed up by Warner Brothers. They're the two biggest companies, obviously, for comics. All these other companies they're big, but they don't. I don't think most of them have any major backing like that. So unfortunately, they can go under a lot faster, I think, than DC or Marvel, depending on what. Well, Disney, we know has bought into a lot of the woke crap, but it also depends on what for DC what Warner Brothers will do too, because the parent company seems to slowly be smartening up their act. So it's hard to say.
all right. So, anyways, with all that being said, let's move on to the wrestling wrap up here, as we only have news on TNA and WWE. On the TNA side of things, of course, they had their Under Siege pay per view on Friday. And on the countdown show before the main pay per view, on the countdown show leading up, which was on YouTube, you saw the opening match of the countdown show, Rhino defeating VSK. The new FBI of Zach Clayton and Ray Jazz with Little Guido in their corner beat the team known as the Botry of Kodama and Obarion. And in the main event of the opening on the countdown show, Laredo Kid defended the TNA digital media title that he just recently won at Rebellion. On the Rebellion countdown show, he successfully defended it against Casey Navarro. And on the Under Siege pay per view itself, the show opened up with former TNA World Champions Josh Alexander and Eric Young defeating Frankie Kazarian and Steve Macklin in a tag team match. Ash by Elegance defeated Havoc in a singles match. Joe Hendry defeated Zachary Wentz. Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich. Alicia Edwards, of course, of the System. They defeated Spitfire to become the new TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions, with now the System now having control of basically 3 separate titles: that the World Heavyweight, World Tag Team, and the Knockouts World Tag Team titles. Rich Swann of First Class defeated Jake Something. Jonathan Gresham, making his return to TNA, defeated Kushida with a new look. In a mixed tag match, TNA Knockouts champion Jordan Grace and PCO teamed up together to defeat Cone and Steph DeLander. In a match for the TNA X Division title, Mustafa Ali retained over Ace Austin. And in the main event of the night, the System of TNA World Champion Moose and TNA World Tag Team Champions Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers defeated the team of Matt Hardy and Speedball Mike Bailey and Mustache Mountain Trent Seven. So that's all we have for the TNA portion of this. Now, of course, for the WWE on Saturday had their Backlash paper. They brought Backlash back, but brought it back as a
pay-per-view.
They brought it back as a international PLE as opposed to regular pay-per-view to Backlash France, as it was called. They had it from the LDLC Arena in Desins, Charpe. And before we get into that, a couple of notes. It's been confirmed that Drew McIntyre signed with the WWE. His contract was kind of up in the air. It was coming up soon. And recently, Drew Gulak and now Gable Stevenson over this past weekend were both released from the company. And Jerry Lawler also his contract was not renewed with the WWE as his contract was up at the start of the year here, and it was not renewed by the WWE. So Jerry Lawler is also gone from WWE now. At the Backlash pay-per-view, in the opening bout with the tag team street fight, which the Bloodline members of Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga defeated the team of Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Of course, they got some help from Tama's brother, Toa Lona, or Tongaloa, who is making his debut with the company. Bayley retained the WWE Women's title in a triple threat match against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. Damian Priest retained the WWE World Heavyweight title over Jey Uso. In another title change, here, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defeated the Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane of Damage Control to become the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. This is, of course, Cargill's first title win since coming into the company, since signing with the WWE. And the main event saw Cody Rhodes retain the WWE and WWE Universal titles over AJ Styles. So that's all we got for the... Oh, go ahead, Rick.
Well, just before I was going to say, we're done the wrestling wrap-up, but just before you get into this day in each history, we got 3 comics from Alchemo, IDW. Saying
and
IDW...
I was just about to read those, but if you want to read them, go ahead.
Okay, well, we're up to 4 now. Anyways, he says, Elk says, IDW cannot borrow money. Their CEO's family has personally guaranteed their loans for 3 years. IDW's Media Holdings share price has dropped to 32 cents each. The whole company is valued at $6.3 million. It has lost almost $6 million annualized last quarter. That is a lot of money, man. So you should buy it. So you could buy it theoretically for $6 million, but the shareholders would have to agree to sell it, and you would have to personally guarantee loans. You need to keep it operating at a loss, unless you can find some way to turn it around very quickly and get it making profit, which that would be hard. Well, it'd be hard, but not, take the woke out and start making sure stories are written good. Anyways, they still have Netflix deals. They hope will save them. Comic sales are a sideshow for sure.
Yeah. So with
I was just gonna say, any idea, Alk, on how much their loans are? But anyways, with that said, on with each
all
history.
right. Yeah, so today is Monday, May 6th, 2024. So let's take a look back at this day in each history. History! And of course, the first thing we're going to do here, um, the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go back to 1984, 40 years ago today. As on this date, 40 years ago today, approximately 3 months after David Von Erich's death, World Class Championship Wrestling held its first ever Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions.
Cool.
This was a show that was brought together after the death of David Von Erich, um, who passed away
Well,
while on a tour.
I'm
Go
not
ahead,
sure
Rick.
who that is. I'll just say I'm not sure who that is, but I'm glad that they decided to honor him.
Well, David Von Erich was part of the Von Erich family. Probably considered one of the most successful yet tragic wrestling stories in all professional wrestling. Um, David was initially slated to become the guy who would dethrone Ric Flair before his passing, and as we'll see at this event, it was Kerry who ended up beating Flair. So at this event, the main event of this event saw Kerry Von Erich defeat Ric Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight title. This was his reign lasted for about 3 weeks. And if you've seen any clips of that show, Kerry defeated Rick with what is known as a backslide, which is when you kind of go back to back with somebody and slide forward, where they're sliding into a pinning position. In a match for the world 6-man tag team titles, Fritz, Kevin, and Mike Von Erich defeated the Fabulous Freebirds, at the time comprised of Terry Bam Bam Gordy, Michael P.S. Hayes, and Buddy Jack Roberts, to become the new world 6-man tag team title holders. In a match for the NWA American Tag Team Championship, the Rock and Soul Connection of King Parsons and Bug Zumoff defeated the Super Destroyers, who were the champions at the time. The Super Destroyers were managed by Skandor Akbar to become the new NWA American Tag Team Champions. Prior to his time with the WWE, of course, Junkyard Dog defeated the Missing Link via DQ. The show opened up with a draw between Johnny Mantell and Kelly Kiniski. So on this date, 40 years ago today, World Class Championship Wrestling had its Von Erich, the first of its Von Erich Memorial shows.
Right. Cool.
So, anyways, getting ready to move on to the next piece in each history. 1984 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. It's also on this date in 1984, initially premiering on Nickelodeon, eventually moving to CBS, with Nelvana producing the pilot episode, and then it being taken over by Deke Audiovisual and such. The Get Along Gang premiered on this date back in 1984 on Nickelodeon. Initially on Nickelodeon, but then moved to CBS. You guys might remember, right? The Get Along Gang, Get Along Gang. Each one is special in their own way. You know that it was that.
I don't. From the picture, I don't really remember watching it or whatever, but the characters do look familiar, vaguely. But maybe I'm confusing with some other characters.
Yeah, the Moose there, that's Montgomery Moose, Dottie Dog, Billy Beaver, I believe. But basically, the idea was it initially premiered on Nickelodeon on May 6th, and then moved over to CBS, and became part of the CBS Saturday morning lineup at the time.
Yeah.
So
I would have been cool, obviously, watching cartoons at the time, but maybe, the Smurfs or
yeah, well,
He-Man or something.
I don't know if it did get up into Canada or not. I wouldn't know for sure about that, but
Yeah.
um,
And we got a couple more comments from Elke. He says, I have no idea what their loans are. I could request my stockbroker mail me their financial filings or look them up online. Last time I checked, I think they owed 12 million. Yeah. Well, obviously, don't look. You can look it up online if you want for me, but don't worry about that. And if definitely don't, on my behalf, check with your stockbroker. And then he said, Winona Earp and Lock and Key Netflix show deals are still ongoing. Yeah. Hopefully that will get them out of bankruptcy. The 12 million.
yeah. But with that, now the last piece in each history for evening here. On this date in 2009, 15 years ago today, the 25th issue of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Initially, with the first issue, it started out Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 8, then just shortened to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. 25th issue Buffy the Vampire Slayer from Dark Horse went on sale on this date back in 2009, 15 years ago today. Sold for $2.99, was 40 pages. Written by Douglas. The story was Living Doll, published by Douglas Petrie. Penciled by Georges Genty, inked by Andy Owens, lettered by Richard Starkings and Jimmy Betancourt, and then colored by Michelle Madsen. So on this date, 25 years, or on this date, 15 years ago today, Buffy the Vampire Slayer number 25 from Dark Horse Comics went on sale on this date back in 2009. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, before we head out, Rick, do you want to do an outro?
Just everybody, I'm gonna have my show tomorrow night at my cousin's again for I'm not sure how long. Hopefully, only a month or two at most. I hopefully get a job and, and then get my own place. So yeah, so we'll hopefully catch everybody tomorrow on my show, 10 o'clock Eastern. So I guess for now, bye. Catch you later.
See y'all later. All right. So with that, thank everybody for being here. We'll be back here tomorrow night, and hopefully I'll have
Yep.
Tim on for with me for more niche news. And until then, bye.